Welcome back to The Line. The recent murder of Victoria Martins in Albuquerque got a lot of attention in the local news, of course, and even national press. As the investigation continues, there are new questions about whether the state's probation and parole system is working effectively. Now, one of the suspects in her murder, Fabian Gonzalez, was apparently supposed to be on supervised probation at that time. He was previously convicted of domestic violence and child abandonment. To make it even worse, Mary, and we've talked on the show about how the lack of resources, including funding, is putting a huge strain on the probation system. Sure. Let's start there. Is this an example of that, or is there something else going on here?
One, I do think it is an example of that. But I think that the main system here is we have a court-ordered system for filing and sending emails called the Odyssey system.
Okay.
And it operates differently. In fact, it's got a nickname. It's 2001: A Space Odyssey, because it's a scary system. So
I've not heard that.
It is different. It operates differently in the civil context versus the criminal context.
Okay.
And in the civil context, for example, I'll get a notice from the court that says you have a notice of hearing. You need to be here at 8:30 on Monday. Okay. The court can tell I sent this email to Mary Torres. Okay, but Mary didn't open it. Okay, so the court knows that. And so then when I don't show up for the hearing, the court's going to say, but you got notice, okay, all right, and you didn't open it. But on the criminal side, using that, they don't have that ability to check. And that is what the problem is. So there's got to be some tweaking done, and I understand now they're finding that out. Oh, we don't have that same process, so now they're going to find that out and fix that. So I think that is one of the issues here, is just the way things happen. And so I do believe, and full disclosure, I represent the Department of Corrections currently, and I have represented the district courts. So I understand that whole state email system. I understand that, and if Department of Corrections or Probation and Parole said we didn't get it, I trust that they didn't get it.
That's right. Vicki, just to catch up viewers on one of the nuances of this is that there was a batch of names sent, 23 names, and if it did or did not get opened, all 23 of these people just sort of didn't get their next step in the system. There was no accountability, and some, in fact, turned themselves in. It was interesting. But we don't know at this point how many people are still sort of skating around out there on this situation.
How many other emails were sent the day before or the day after?
That's right.
I mean, when I read this, and I agree with Mary, I don't think there was anything, bad about this situation. I think it was a mistake.
Willful,
And it certainly wasn't willful, exactly. Thank you for that very lawyerly term. I think the problem is, though, we see this all across the state. We at Common Cause are usually talking about this around the Secretary of State's website and reporting.
Yes, that's right.
Our technology in this state is about 1975. That's right. And the legislature has got to appropriate money to make these systems work. We can get blown off when it's about campaign finance reports. I don't think they're going to be able to blow off the corrections department on this. Because
can we still do this with a 5% cut across the board for all departments?
We're going to have to. We're going to have to look at what government is spending. We're going to have to look at all these contracts that make my head explode every day, that each department just does contracts that nobody knows about. We need to hire, the staff you need and not have to do that contracting out. But I think that, again, when I pay my P&M bill, I get an email before I've even closed that tab saying, thank you for paying your P&M bill.
The little ding comes in, that's right.
So the fact that we can't even have something like that and the fact that we have it in the civil side but not the criminal side, doesn't that seem backwards?
Yes, exactly.
I'd much rather catch the criminal side than the civil side.
That's right. Be a little more watchdog on that side of things. Again, no intent here, it seems like, but at the same time, the ramifications for the public are huge. Let's get back to the story here.
I think this is part and parcel with this larger conversation that we've been having over the past however many years about not just the underfunding of the executive branch, which I believe really is still happening, but the serious, pervasive underfunding of our court system.
Right.
It is a scandal, if you ask me, how little money goes into that court system. It's something like 2% of our state budget goes toward all of these things that we're talking about. And we know as well that our public defender system is woefully underfunded. Our just everything.
Prosecutors,
everything. in the court system. This is not, just sort of something what we were discussing before, we don't really want our courts to be out there raising their own money. That's, there's a certain amount of that with fees, but we don't want a situation
Prior to your hearing, I
like
want you
with
to
the Albuquerque
submit a
cars.
P&L. We'll tell you what our jurisdiction,
We don't,
tell you what our ruling
we
is.
don't want the situation like we see with the with APD, where essentially they're asked to raise a portion of their own budget.
That's right.
That's not how our court system is supposed to work, and we really see, I think, some very thoughtful but deeply concerned voices coming out and saying, listen, the basic elements of our judicial system cannot operate correctly, and this is a shocking and horrifying example. Hopefully it's the example that opens our state eyes.
Daniel, we've heard lots and lots and lots from people over the past couple of years that, this idea of the revolving door is the problem in our criminal system. That we're just putting people in, just kind of letting them walk out. Well, it turns out we're letting them walk out through our own incompetence sometimes. And this, to Sophie's point, it's a much bigger issue, it seems to me, than just this email bouncing around.
It is, but I also think there's a simple word that can help solve some of these problems, and that word's accountability.
Okay.
Right?
On whose end?
Everybody's end.
Okay.
If I send a batch of 23 people from the courts to the corrections department, I would assume at some point the answer can't be, well, I pressed the button, it's not my concern anymore.
Gotcha.
I mean, these people are communicating. The courts have to know whether these people are showing up and meeting the requirements of probation. So what's happened during this time, right? Is nobody reporting back to the court that says Dan didn't show up and meet the
seems like it,
probation officer?
actually, yeah.
Right. So I mean,
Yeah.
at some point, it seems like whenever these things happen, what we get in New Mexico state government is we quickly get, well, I sent it, it's not my fault. I didn't receive it, it's not my fault. The system doesn't work. At some point, people need to say, I can tell you right now, in my business, it's a business deal. First of all, Microsoft Outlook gives you unbelievable opportunities to send word. Maybe the state should know this. It's free. You can get it out there, right? You can get a read receipt. You can get a sent receipt.
Yep, that's
but
right.
more importantly, when I send something of importance to somebody, I follow it up if I don't hear back.
That's right.
Or more importantly, I follow it up when I send it. If I reply to a RFP for a client,
Right.
if I have interactions with the client, they get an email from me, and if I don't see them open it or respond to me, they get a phone call from me. And we seem to have this attitude of, nah.
But you may be adequately staffed and adequately
That's
funded
the
to make
issue.
that happen. When you look at state government, that's not happening. They're not providing. So state government, and we just saw this with the governor having to cut, saying we're going to cut 5% across the board. So is the thing that we cut, and it's not quite the same, but is the thing that we cut the employee's time to double check those things? Is the thing that we cut the technology and the staff member who enables that technology?
That's right.
This is what happens when we starve our systems. Over time, they're going to devolve to the stuff that they're either rewarded or punished for.
Well, but I think at the end of the day, the problem is, and I agree with what you're saying, I think the follow-up can be done fairly simply. I mean, there's people in the office, I need you to make the call in the next 5 days and check if this went through, or I'm going to make the call. That's why we have cell phones. We operated a lot more efficiently, it seems like, before we had cell phones and everything else when we left. But here's my concern, to your point, is that you're right. The answer we're getting again, and not to take us on another track, is, well, we're going to have this 5% cut.
Right.
No, we don't need a 5% cut.
No.
We need to cut 100% of the crap that doesn't work, the things that are failing. We need to
Yes.
fund 100% the things that are working, not come into a special session and say everything across the board is getting cut 5%.
That's lazy.
So the things
That's lazy.
that are successful, that we're having success with, are going to get cut again, and the things that are not succeeding and not doing what they were tasked to do are going to get 95% of the money they got, and that's the government answer that drives, I think, everybody crazy.
Good point.
Yep.
Vicki, the New Mexican, those 23 files we're talking about, they reached back and looked at some of those case files, and it turned out some of these things weren't even entered into the system for 3 to 4 to 5 months after judgment and sentences were handed
Right.
down. That's amazing to me. After sentencing is amazing.
And I think again, the funding of the courts, and we just did a year-long project looking at what does the court system in New Mexico need more than anything, and we met with dozens of attorneys and judges and advocates, and I'm telling you, the number one thing we heard from everyone was money. That we have starved our system for so many years, whether it's the prosecutor's office or the public defender's office or
Either
the
side.
courts themselves, that we have just starved it so much that it cannot function. And I just think that we've gone too far, and we've got to figure out, as Dan says, that's exactly what we need to do. Don't be lazy and just say 5% is gone everywhere. Get into your department. Find out who's working. Find out what's working. Reorganize positions. This is what the governor is elected to do, and this is what those cabinet people are appointed to do. This is their job, and I can assure you they're making a lot more money than most New Mexicans.
That's right. That's right. Mary T. Torres, the idea that you can have so much wrong and everybody be in so much agreement with it, but we yet still do not have a political solution.
That's true.
Where does the public step into this? Does the public have a say here? Because at the end of the day, this is about a safety issue for all of us on the street.
Exactly. Hopefully, the public will say, we have got to fund our judicial system. We've got to fund that system. And public should be calling their legislatures and saying, you have got to do this.
Dan, can this be a political issue in a political season? Is this a big enough one?
I think it can be, but I'm going to pour fuel on the fire.
Good.
It's going to be it can be a political issue, but at the same time, you're going to have many people out there saying, it seems like every time we drive through a town in New Mexico, we're building a new courthouse, we're refurbishing a new courthouse, we've got unbelievable amounts of money to put furniture and hire new people and
Actually,
grow
there's
this
no money
stuff.
for furniture
That's
on
right.
Santa Fe.
Santa Fe.
Right, but they're asking for it. They're not asking for the system.
That's
They
right.
They're
just,
not getting it,
they
though.
just
That's right.
redid his stuff down in Chaves County.
Yep.
They're doing stuff up here in Albuquerque. So I think that the problem is that it's kind of a catch-22. If you make it a political issue, right, then you're going to get those. If I was a legislator, my response would be, not that I am one now, but I did play one for 10 years. The first thing I'd do is I'd go get the last 5 requests from the courts, and I'm going to tell you that just personally, lots of the things that we're talking around the table that are important, those things are 9, 10, 11 on the request list of 20 things. There's other things that are listed higher. So the courts are going to say, I don't know if I want to make a stink out of this because I don't want Dan Foley to run out and say, well, here's the first 5 things you requested, and it's not one of those, and I funded 3 of those 5. And so I think
That's reality.
at some
Yep.
point we have to hold people accountable. We got to ask the tough questions. I think we do part of that here on the show by saying this is a priority. There's no doubt that when systems like this are failing and things happen to our citizens like happened to that young girl, when this animal should not have been around a child, it's time for us to put partisan politics aside and say enough's enough. That I have 4 children, and something like this would not be tolerated by me or anybody else. And for what this young girl went through, for us to sit around and say, well, it's the system, it's the phone call, it's the, you know what, everybody needs to grow up and say, whatever failed, we're going to make sure that never happens again. But what annoys me is every time we have something like this in New Mexico, and I've been doing the show now for 7 years, Gene, this is not the first time something egregious like this has happened. We have this call to arms, and 90 days later, everybody moves on with their life, and it happens again.
That's right. Probation reform, under a minute here. It seems to rise and it falls again. Then it rises a little bit in consciousness and it falls again. How do we get our public consciousness to get up there and stay there?
Well, I think one of the problems is, and not as an excuse, but one of the problems is that these are very specialized fields. There is expertise out there, but Joe Q. Citizen does not necessarily have the time to develop that expertise, to seek out that expertise. And so there is, I think, a reasonable, or let's say an expected tendency to move toward the things for which we think we have expertise, and to sort of ignore the things that we don't. Here's the thing, though. When we elect politicians, our expectation is that they will serve as the higher brain for the rest of us. That they will go out and gather those experts, they will figure out what needs to be done, that they will do it with our best interest at heart as we would want it done. Now that sounds very Pollyanna, and I recognize that. But especially for issues like this, we need to be listening to the courts, we need to be listening to experts in this arena. Looking at communities that have done a good job with probation and parole.
Let's look at the
Looking
right
for best
place.
practices.
Somebody's doing it right.
Instead of what unfortunately I think it all too often devolves to, which is I think bad, therefore bad, or I think good, therefore good.
And let's be clear, though, when we're talking about the courts and corrections, they didn't do this. This scumball did this, okay? So they did not do this. They didn't allow this. There was a glitch in the system. There's some accountability, but this scumball did this.
That's right.
Can I just ask you guys,
Gonna
can I
wrap
ask
real
you to
quick.
reiterate the higher brain deal so when my wife watches, can you say that again?
But you lose that higher brain once you.
Have her
That
call.
was, that was
Have her call.
elected. That was for elected people, Dan. For elected people.
Yeah.
When we come back to the line, we'll look at one elementary school's innovative approach to homework.